This week is Maternal Mental Health Week, a time when we turn our attention to the psychological well-being of mothers. But here's what rarely gets said. Maternal mental health doesn't begin at birth. For bereaved mothers, it begins in loss. The grief, the trauma, the dismissals, the body that carried babies that didn't come home, all of it travels into pregnancy again, into the birth room, into the postpartum period. And when it goes unsupported, it compounds. It shapeshifts. It can look like anxiety, rage, numbness, or feeling nothing at all for the child you fought so hard to hold. Today's guest, Jayme Serbell, is a writer who has lived this. 5 pregnancies, multiple losses, a twin pregnancy where she had to make the impossible decision no parent should face, a postpartum haemorrhage that nearly took her life, and a postpartum rage diagnosis that finally gave language to something she'd been carrying alone. This is what maternal mental health looks like for bereaved mothers, and it's a conversation that is long overdue. Welcome to the What I Wish I Knew After Pregnancy Loss podcast. I am your host, Shana Southern. I am an angel mum, a rainbow mum, a pregnancy loss practitioner, and trauma-informed coach. I created the Institute of Healing Through Pregnancy Loss out of my own experience with loss in the hopes to provide understanding and healing, educating people on pregnancy loss, and creating more women or men in trained support roles. In this podcast, I hope to shed light on what I wish I knew in relation to pregnancy loss, opening up the conversation, breaking the stigma, and bringing real-life stories plus guest experts. Thank you for being here with me today, and let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to the podcast, the intersection of pregnancy loss, fertility, trauma, and purpose, having the conversations that should have been happening all along. Today, I have with me Jayme Serbell. Jayme is a writer and memoirist whose work explores grief and joy, motherhood and adventure, and the subtle and profound changes that shape a life. She writes at Jayme Shares Things on Substack. Thank you so much for joining us, Jayme.
Thank you so much for having me and for making this space for other parents as well.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's something that I wish that I had available to me. So essentially everything that I've created is what I wish that I had. And just to be able to talk, I wanted to be able to speak what was happening to me. I didn't want to write it down. Even though that's what I did, but I wanted to be able to speak it out into existence. Yeah, this is why I created this space, and to have women like yourself in sharing your experience, sharing what you've been able to do is so very valuable for women like us that are searching for that maybe validation or resources or something to help them through. So did you want to share a little bit about your story?
Yeah, you just want to dive in?
Just you can start at the beginning, start
Like,
wherever you want to go. And however you want to tell it is completely fine. I don't believe we ever need to sugarcoat our experiences. I don't believe we need to put disclaimers or trigger warnings on what we do,
cool.
because we are trying to shift the conversation. And if we're consistently buffering it, we're not actually able to make the change that we want. So I
Yep.
know, feel free to share as little or as much as you want and however you want to share it.
Yeah. So I have, so let's see, let's start at the beginning. So it was January 2017. It was actually the day of the Women's March after Trump's inauguration in the US. And so my husband and I were heading to the march, and I got like a severe cramping going on. I had no idea what was going on. I also started my period, so I thought. And my sister gets like these wild periods that are just her whole life has been just extremely intense. So I just assumed I was getting a taste of her life just for a weird 48, 72 hour blip or whatever. and then didn't really think anything of it. But it was like nothing I had ever experienced before. And I was like, whoa, that was nuts. I'm texting my sister of solidarity. I can't believe you deal with this every month.
What do your periods feel
uh,
like?
yeah. Yeah. And I was explaining stuff to you, and she was like, yep, that sounds like my periods, like intense pain to the point of throwing up and all kinds of stuff. And I was just like, wow, okay. Ended up not going to the march. I went home. There was also a time too that I was like, do I have an organ failing right now? Like, what is happening? But just moved on with my life. And then my husband and I built a van into a tiny home, and we traveled for just under 3 years, but almost exactly 2 years after we hit the road, I took a pregnancy test just to reassure ourselves of, okay, we're not pregnant kind of thing, just like a weird late period because I never really had like super consistent periods. I forgot where we were heading, but I just wanted peace of mind that we were not pregnant. And so I took the test, and there was a big fat blue plus sign. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh, fuck. Which very quickly turned into, oh, fuck. Like, excitement. And we were visiting family in my hometown in St. Louis at the time that this happened. So that was just serendipitous. And and it was like 4 a.m. and I woke my husband up and was like, oh my God. And we both got very giddy very quickly. I remember we like went out to brunch, and we were like giggling the whole time of, I don't even know what I can eat. And he's, I know you can't have a mimosa. But we got really excited. We bought all sorts of you're gonna be a grandparent books for our parents, and did all these different reveals with our parents. And so then we scheduled a doctor appointment and we did blood work. And then a day or two later, we went for the follow-up blood work to check HCG levels, see if they were doubling or whatever it was. And we didn't know anything about anything at this point in our journey. And yeah, so we went for the follow-up appointment, and the doctor had like terrible bedside manner. And it was just very, yeah, it's not a viable pregnancy. So are you wanting to do a DNC here, or do you want to just pass it naturally at home? And we're like on cloud nine about the idea of having a baby. Like, we've always wanted a huge family. It wasn't necessarily like planned, but it also, like, the traveling in the van, we were saying was one last hurrah before we had kids, and we had done it for 2 years. So we were like, okay, that's not terrible. But yeah, it was like a very blunt situation from the doctor. And I even cried and low key went off on her of, this isn't how you deliver news like this. What are you talking about? And we were also both holding out hope that they were wrong. Maybe the numbers will double. You don't know. And she gave us like a, yeah, maybe, but no. And so but we convinced ourselves that if we want it enough, it's going to happen. And my mom lived like halfway across the country. So we went in the van and we went to go visit my mom. And then while we were there, I passed the miscarriage at her place. And it was that moment of knowing I'm pregnant, knowing I'm miscarrying, and experiencing that we were both like, oh my God, that's what happened that January. Like,
Yeah.
to the T, all of this was so familiar to like me and my body. And the most like absurd thing that ever happened to me is happening like minute by minute, it felt. So then it was just this, oh my God, this is the second time we've been pregnant. What the heck? So that was very mind boggling.
Yeah, I was just agreeing with you. It would have been definitely something to like that you had to wrap your head around, especially knowing the second time that you were pregnant and then being able to make the connection to the experience that you had the first time and then realizing it's happened again.
Yeah. And it was just absurd feeling this like grieving something you didn't even know that you had.
Yeah.
And especially when it's like pregnancy, I feel like, versus, I don't know, oh, I didn't know there was a $10 bill there. I'm not talking like that, but there was literally a life inside of me. And yeah, I just remember being like stunned for several days. And I like struggled to figure out like, am I stunned about this current miscarriage or am I stunned over the fact that I didn't know it, but apparently this is my second one?
And then potentially like grieving, like you said, both of those at the same time.
Right. Yeah, simultaneously. But then we were like determined, like that that pivoted us of okay, now we know this is what we want and we're ready. So after that, we were like, let's do it. We want a family. So we bought off-grid property in New Mexico and it was beautiful. It was epic. Off-grid dwelling with a house on it overlooking the mountains, just the dream. And then it was like, you talk about what I wish I knew about pregnancy loss. What I didn't know until I lived it was how, what's the word I'm looking for? How mechanical trying to conceive can become when it's, okay, I'm ovulating. Okay, we need to do this. Okay, da da da.
Becomes very clinical, doesn't it? Like very much to the
Clinical. Yeah, that's
day.
the word I was looking for. Yep.
Mechanical works too, because it's very much
Yeah.
that it's to the minute, to the day, the window that you have, and a lot of the intimacy can be drained from that experience.
Totally. Yeah. So it's like we struggle with the intimacy side of things. Okay, we have to do it. Okay, are you ready? Okay, are we doing all the right things? And then after we're intimate, it's emotional as heck because I hope that worked. I'm also grieving the lack of intimacy. And if that worked, we know that doesn't guarantee a baby like that we can hold in our arms that is
Mm.
breathing. And so it was just like so heavy and emotional. And we both got to a point where we're like, this is not how we want to conceive. So we're mechanical, all of this stuff. And we get pregnant a third time. And we're ecstatic. We are doing all of the things. We are very hesitant. I'll say we're excited, but we were also hesitant to allow ourselves to feel excited. This time around, it was a lot more like buttoned up. It's, yeah, hopefully. Yes, I am still feeling nauseous. I don't know. We'll see. And this time around out in New Mexico, too, we were working with much, I don't know, crunchier people. And so they were like, no ultrasound, no blood work, no any of this stuff, which we were hesitant about. But we were like, you know what? We hired you. So, we're going to trust you on this. And I think we were around 10 weeks when I started miscarrying. I remember too, we were about to video chat with my nephews and my brother and sister-in-law to be like, we're pregnant. And like literally about to hop on the call. And I went to the bathroom and I wiped and there was blood. And I was like, we're going to have to reschedule. And yeah. And then I remember feeling a lot of anger after that one because I had nothing to walk away from it with besides the positive pregnancy test. I didn't have an ultrasound or even just like doctor's notes or something.
Yeah.
And I actually clinged to that pregnancy test for a long time, I think 2 years or something. And finally, my husband was like, can I throw this away?
Well, no,
Um,
this is the only thing.
yeah.
And that's the thing with those with early losses. You don't get, they don't think to give you an ultrasound if you're not asking for it. You
Hmm.
don't think that you can. You don't think in the
Right.
moment when your whole world has just been turned on its head, this is what I should be asking for. And then afterwards, you're like, I wish I actually had something else. So to hold on to something like a pregnancy test for so long, you obviously needed it to help you process that experience.
Yeah. And then there was like how social media is, but at the time, there was like people I knew that were getting pregnant, having healthy pregnancies or births that are talking about manifesting and stuff like that. And I'm just like, I internalized it so bad of like, I'm doing all of the wrong things. I'm not manifesting this correctly. How am I must be asking for this somehow? So that was rough.
It's very easy
And
to get in your
then,
head.
oh yeah, so easy and get trapped there.
Yeah.
And I will say, luckily, too, my husband and I practice a type of meditation called Vipassana meditation, and we've done 10 days of silence meditation courses. And it's all about just like accepting that everything's going to change. So I do feel like we had a little bit of groundedness to turn to while we were grieving those. But again, it's like we're back into the clinical mechanical side of things. And like other people don't fully understand either. We lost that pregnancy the end of October, and that Thanksgiving, I was upset about it. And I had a family member be like, you need to get over it. People have miscarriages all of the time and they're fine. And then I internalized that too. And I'm like, I just need to get over this.
And it makes you feel like you're
Um,
making it so much bigger than what it actually is. And you're like,
totally.
maybe I shouldn't be feeling what I'm feeling. Maybe it isn't as big as what it feels like for me. And maybe I'm
Right.
making it up. And,
Yeah.
it
I'm
makes you
just being
question,
dramatic.
yeah, makes you question everything about you and how you're coping with it. And maybe you should be further along, but you're not. And then you're like, there's something wrong with me.
Yeah. And everyone says the wrong things, I feel like too. Even at least you can get pregnant. And it's like, it doesn't mean anything. I've gotten pregnant 3 times and they've all died. Yay. Lucky me.
Yes, those
Um,
platitudes just to fill the silence and the
yeah,
awkwardness. Mm.
totally. Yeah. People don't like feeling uncomfortable. So so after this, we're like throwing everything at the wall to make it happen. Because now we're at the dreaded, you've had 3 consecutive losses. And we had one doctor be like, we'll go talk to this fertility specialist and they'll run all these tests with you and then they'll sit down and talk with you. And we're like, that sounds great. I'd love to hear, do I have an issue? Does he have an issue? What our next steps are? And basically, we were both like essentially okay. And then the doctor just gave us a really hard sell on IVF of I just don't know why anyone would put themselves through loss if they could have more control over it kind of thing. And we're like, this that's not what we were signing up for. Like, we just wanted information. We're not trying to yeah, I think IVF and IUI are amazing tools for people, but that's just not where we were at the time. And it was just deflating going in this thing thinking that it was going to be a conversation of here's all of the information, here's all of your options. And it was just like IVF, IVF, IVF kind of thing.
Just
Uh,
pushed into your face. Yeah, you weren't prepared. Like it was you thinking that you were going in for an information session type
mhm.
thing, not that, or even like judgment on their part. We're just coming in to see what our options are, not to get it shoved down our throat.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember at one point too, he said something. There was like something with one of my ovaries where, like, after we learned more about it, it was like really not a concern, but he just said it in passing. And when I was younger, I used to smoke cigarettes. And he was like, but it's really common if you used to smoke. And so then it's blaring in my head of John could have been a dad by now. This is all my fault. John's my husband. So my husband could have been a dad by now. This is all my fault. And it like wrecked me for the whole, like, definitely the rest of the day and definitely a few weeks after that too. Just, you're not a dad because of me. And like, why are you with me kind of thing. So we tried that. We started working with a man that practices Chinese medicine. So I was taking basically like 96 herbal pills a day we also signed up for a 10-week sex course. It was like this virtual thing where you get homework and whatever because it was too mechanical and we hated it. And it actually was a phenomenal choice for us. Like, we connected more. There was obviously sexual things, but there was way more emotional things. So we were able to like break down our walls we've been building a bit internally. And it made it all fun again, like fun, exciting, different. And during the course, we did conceive. And we also built a 40-foot garden that was shaped like a vulva. And I can send you photos. But we were like, why not?
I would actually like to
Um,
see what you created in that with that
oh my God, it's epic. You can see it from Google Maps or
from
whatever, Google
space.
Earth.
Yeah.
Yep. We're like, this might be one of our greatest achievements.
Definitely
But
unleashed your creativity.
and it was cool too because it was like we built this garden and I think it was maybe a month or two after that we found out we were pregnant and we called it our vegetable garden. So we were like, the vegetable garden has spoken.
Becomes a place
Um,
of worship.
totally. It bears fruit. And right now, this is during COVID. So we get a positive pregnancy test in July of 2020. And August of 2020, we have our first appointment. And because it's COVID, no one can come into the hospital with me. And I basically sobbed to the front desk people and was like, I have had three losses. I can't imagine if I'm walking into a fourth one all by myself. Can my husband please come with me? And they talked to the higher ups and they let him. So, masked and everything, we go back to the ultrasound room and they're scanning. They're like, here's your baby with a healthy heartbeat. Everything's measuring great. Everything's looking great. We're like squeezing hands and grinning. And she moves the wand over and she goes, and here's another baby. And we both just lost it. Like, I always tell people, like, he was wearing a mask, but I could see my husband and it looked like he swallowed a watermelon wedge or something, like just how wide he was smiling. He was crying and jumping around the room. I was just sitting there like, I can't believe it. And we've always talked about having like wanting twins, like how we thought that would be cool and stuff. Over the moon, ecstatic. Identical twin boys. It like I feel like to most people this might sound morbid, but to this community I feel like would get it. But they always call them baby A and baby B. And I told John, we've always had a list of names. And I told John, I want to name the boys because if we lose one, I don't want us having to decide which name we're getting rid of. So we named one Seamus. Baby A is Seamus and baby B is Killian. And they were perfect. Halfway through the pregnancy, Killian, baby B, got a really bad diagnosis. He actually got a few diagnoses. First, he had a birth defect in his diaphragm, and it was treatable, but it's like he would need surgery. He would need intubation for oxygen and surgery immediately after birth. And we had the means at the time where we were in the process of moving halfway across the country so we could be with the best doctor to deal with this birth defect. And then a week after that, he got another diagnosis unrelated. So, how identical twin pregnancies work is they have blood vessels that connect to the placenta. And what they had was blood vessels that connected to the placenta, but also connected to each other. And so they were sending blood back and forth to one another. And Killian had a smaller part of the placenta, and Seamus had a bigger part of the placenta. And so Killian was basically actively dying. But since they were connected by those blood vessels, if we lost Killian, the aftershock would have been heavily likely it would be terminal. It's one of those where we can't say for sure, but like
Mm.
we can say as close to sure as we can. And it all happened like really quick. We were in New Mexico. They didn't have the most high tech equipment. So we're like in this meeting, and they're like, we already talked to the biggest hospital in Denver, Colorado. We said, you're scheduled for an appointment the day after tomorrow. You need to pack up, drive up there tomorrow. And the next day, you're going to spend all day doing tests and to figure out, like, are we able to save both? What's the situation? Which was like a 5 hour drive. So we trekked all the way up there and spent, it was actually my 30th birthday. I turned 30 on October 30th. Spent all day in the hospital looking at ultrasounds of the boys and all sorts of things. And at the end, we had a meeting, and he was basically like, the doctor was amazing, but he was basically like, Killian is dying. He literally was like, you had an extremely sick baby.
One in 4 pregnancies will result in miscarriage. 1 in 8 women will experience infertility. 1 in 100 women will experience recurrent miscarriage. And 1 in 160 births end in stillbirth. Have you been wanting to make a difference in the lives of women or men who have experienced pregnancy loss because you can see so many suffering in silence, but you just don't know how? Collectively, we can change how bereaved parents can access mental, physical, and emotional support after their experience. There is a lot of women with unhealed trauma, and there is a huge gap in the current support system when it comes to bereaved parents' recovery after loss. There are too many women and men suffering in silence. The Pregnancy Loss Practitioner Certification is a worldwide, one-of-a-kind program that gives you proven methods designed for healthcare professionals, medical staff, midwives, nurses, doulas, birth workers, coaches, and angel parents alike. The Pregnancy Loss Practitioner Certification is bridging that gap. It will give you a proven support structure to follow and education specific to pregnancy loss, created by a lost mum. It is creating more education specifically for loss so that you can enhance your service and become the point of difference. Or you can create the support that you so desperately needed in your healing after loss. This is the next level of growth and expansion you have been searching for. So does this sound like something that you have been searching for? Let's explore this more together. You can head to the episode show notes where you'll find the program application, or direct message me on Instagram and let's open up the conversation in how you can use this education. You have a gift, and I look forward to supporting you and witnessing you bring your gift to the world, healing and transforming women's lives.
So, yeah, you have a very sick baby, and essentially it was like, do nothing and probably lose both, or take action and lose one baby, save the other. But it wasn't a choice, but it was. We had to sign stacks and stacks of documents that said words like terminate and abort on it. And the social worker that was in the room with us was even like, thank God you're in a state where you can legally get this done. And so, yeah, the procedure was we had to cauterize his umbilical cord. And since we were at a certain part in the pregnancy, we could not, like, I had to carry both of them the entire remaining of the pregnancy. So I just went the rest of the pregnancy with this yin and yang, this growing baby and this decaying baby inside of me. We saw him every ultrasound with our consent. The ultrasound techs were always like, do you want to see him? And we were like, yeah, we want to see him. And, but it was just like, really messed with the mind a bit of removing the doubles of everything on the baby registry and buying a newborn take home outfit while also buying an urn, and like making appointments with the hospital and appointments with the funeral home, or the comments you get from strangers, what do you got, two in there, kind of thing, when you're near 9 months. And it's so many times I wanted to say something and I never had the balls to do it. I wish I had. It's just, okay, I'm gonna run away and cry.
Just not going to
um
talk to you right now. And I think
Yeah.
society feels like they can say stuff like that and just expect the answer to be okay. And I think I didn't say a lot until after at a certain point in my healing journey. And then I'm
Totally.
like, no, I'm actually going to tell you she's not my first. Or
Yeah.
it's just those questions. And you're like, we should be able to tell, yes, I do have twins, but one is thriving. And unfortunately, the other one, it hasn't survived. And I mean, it's such a hard story to tell, isn't it? Like, you still have to
Totally.
carry both of them. But for you, even that duality of hope and love of your growing baby, and also continuing to grieve and anticipate what is going to be coming when you give birth.
Yeah, yeah. Definitely these like dueling realities of preparing for like an amazing hello and preparing for like a grueling goodbye. And also not being fully convinced our other twin's gonna survive. We don't have a track record that shows that. We did our best to have the hope and be optimistic and say and feel and think all the positive things, but there was always that lingering back of the mind of we who knows if this baby is gonna make it kind of
Yeah.
thing. But yeah, so carried them my little yin and yang the rest of the pregnancy. And then we did a home birth, and because at that point everyone was telling us we were now a singleton pregnancy, like the high risk doctors, everyone. We asked our midwife, we asked our OB, we asked the fire department if it was okay to do a home birth. We were almost looking for someone to tell us not to, and everyone was like, you're a singleton now, that's what they're saying, so you're safe to do it. And so we did. And they were both born. Seamus was healthy and great, but then I hemorrhaged, and I hemorrhaged really bad. I lost 60% of my blood and needed 16 transfusions. I like barely made it to the hospital via ambulance. And we after that we immediately were like, let's move back home, which like is St. Louis, Missouri. We're really far from a hospital, but we're also far from family and friends. But after that, it was just like, I don't know what was like PTSD from the hemorrhage or what was all the like grief and loss stuff, and just an amalgamation of both of them. But I was on edge all of the time. I was never like diagnosed with anything, but I know I had like probably every PTSD, anxiety, and everything in the book. And that it was like Seamus would fall over while sitting up, and I would just have a panic attack. Baby spit up all the time. He would spit up, and I couldn't even hold him. My husband would have to like swoop in and clean him up, and I would just be having a panic attack. He slept great at night, and I didn't. I'd be waking up every half hour, like touching his chest, putting my face near his mouth. Is he breathing? Is his chest rising and falling? Is he okay? And just always convinced something bad was going to happen. I could not do stairs with him. I always pictured myself like dropping him, falling and landing on top of him. There was one time he and I were home alone, and my phone was upstairs, and I was like, I need my phone. And I just remember curling him into my lap and like sobbing and scooting up the stairs the whole way up. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. We're almost there. And yeah, I always say this jokingly, but then we actually looked into it and it's accurate. But my husband and I went through a house down payment of therapy. We did individual therapy, we did couples therapy. At one point, I even did therapy with my sister, just everything to work through it. And we were finally like, let's see, what was this, 2, maybe 3 years later? We were like, let's try again. We really want him to have the sibling that we want him to have. And we did. And it was that mechanical thing. We were both like pretty scared for pregnancy in general. And then we got pregnant, and it was unlike any pregnancy I had. I was in so much pain. I was like in so much pain that I was throwing up, but I was like, every pregnancy is different. Who knows? But I also feel like when you've had so many losses, various losses, whatever, you know these different red flags to keep an eye out for. And so then I started feeling the pain on just one side. And I was immediately like, I had just finished throwing up and I like came out of the bathroom sobbing and I was like, John, we need to go to the hospital like now. And we went to the hospital. I told them it was ectopic. They did an over the belly ultrasound and I was like, I'm like 5 weeks. Why aren't you doing a transvaginal ultrasound? And they just brushed me off and they're like, we just need to make sure there's something in your uterus. We don't need hyper details. And I was like, okay, fine. And they told me it was just gas and they sent me home. Okay. So yeah, they told me, oh, it's just gas. And we were like, you know what? Okay, cool. And I was even like, if I know I'm not dying, like I can handle any pain. That's fine. Whatever. 2 weeks later, they had me come in for early ultrasound just because of our history. So it was like 7 weeks, give or take. And it was ectopic. They got it wrong. I ended up losing a fallopian tube over it and the pregnancy itself, obviously. I had a lot of anger this time around because I felt dismissed. I felt discarded. I felt it was all avoidable. If they had caught the ectopic when we went to the ER, I could have just taken a pill to dissolve it
Yeah.
and I that would have been it. But since I was further along, I needed emer- emergency life-saving surgery again and I lost an organ over it, a crucial one to try to have a baby. And I was just so angry. And so I forgot to mention too, when I was postpartum with Seamus, I had nightmares a lot and they were all about him dying in different ways.
Mm.
And so after the ectopic, I started having nightmares again, but this time it was me dying, just all these different scenarios. And we switched doctors and the new doctor checked my body. She was like, you know what, if you guys want, you seem okay, if you guys whenever you guys want to try again, it's fine with me. And we said F it, and we did, and we immediately got pregnant on the first cycle. And long story shorter, it was a healthy pregnancy, although we felt like we were walking on eggshells the whole time, just like every ultrasound appointment was like, is this the one that they're going to deliver bad news kind of thing? But yeah, the pregnancy was healthy. The birth, although like any birth is intense, but it was great. She was born on call, so in the amniotic sac still. And the placenta came out. There was no hemorrhaging. And what shocked me the most though was that was my easiest pregnancy and one of my like most difficult postpartum times from a mental health standpoint.
Yeah.
I couldn't, once she was born, I felt like I could not stand my son and it tore me apart because I wanted him more than anything in the world. I fought so hard for him and all of this stuff. And I could not understand how just like him entering a room would crawl under my skin. And so then I'm having these thoughts every single day about how terrible I am. I'm a terrible mother. I'm a terrible person. And anytime he would just be a 4 year old, fall down, scrape his knees, and start crying or whatever, I just had these visions of me putting a gun to my head. And like that same visual several times a day, all day long, for the longest time. And it just this loop of you're terrible, you're a terrible mother, you're a terrible wife, you're and I just had these like huge back and forth with my son where I would be like, oh my God, just get in your car seat. And then I'd be like, I'm so sorry. You don't deserve to be talked to like that. I love you. Please get in your car. Please get in your car seat. Oh my God. Just like these swings. And I felt like I was going fucking crazy. And I finally confided to my husband and a neighbor of mine who works in the postpartum world. And she was like, they were both like, you need to get help. And she was like, you need to go to a mental health walk-in clinic like now. And so we did. And I got diagnosed with postpartum rage, which I did not know was a thing. And also felt like very shameful of that. Like rage feels like this terrible thing for a mother to have.
I think it's all that conditioning, isn't it, of what anger is. And
Right.
there's so much shame around anger and rage, and you shouldn't feel it, especially as a woman. You should not feel
Right.
that. To be diagnosed with that and to be like, oh my gosh, like, how could I be diagnosed with that? That's just wrong. But also
Yeah.
because you had been feeling all of that.
Yeah. No, I was like, that sounds accurate, but I don't want to admit that.
Yeah, it sounds accurate, but can we change the name
Can we
maybe?
rename it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I got put on SSRIs, Zoloft, and that changed everything. It's about a month or whatever for your body to get used to it. But once I was used to it, it was like, oh my God, I can be the parent that I want to be. And I can, like, I don't know, breathe, literally, just like breathe. And yeah, and I will say, like, aside from the postpartum rage with our daughter, it definitely opened my eyes to like how much I struggled postpartum with my son because it was like I wasn't having these, I still would freak out over the spit up for whatever reason. But aside from that, I like with my son, I couldn't baby wear him. I would hold him only if I was sitting down. And our daughter, I didn't have that like crippling like fear and anxiety the way that I did with him. And it was just really eye opening. And with her, like, I didn't hemorrhage or anything. So I remember like going to the bathroom at some point after birth and I was like, wow, I feel great right now. Like, I'm not bedridden. I'm not hurting everywhere. And even I didn't rip or whatever when I gave birth. So I was like, man, I could run a marathon right now. But yeah, so many differences. And yeah, and yeah, it's just interesting too, like meeting new families and things like that. Whether we have one kid or both with us, it's oh, is it just the two? Like always those questions. Is this your first kid? Is this your second kid? Is this just one, just two, or whatever? And it's like, how do I tell this whole story that I just told you in 10 seconds
Just like,
with everyone feeling cool about it?
just say no and walk away. No.
Yeah.
And then just like exit.
You know what? I should.
Yeah. No, it's not. Okay, bye.
Yeah.
And they'll be
Right.
like,
Yeah. Have a
what?
good day.
Leave them guessing. Yeah. But yeah, we mentioned a few things before we started recording it. It's not spoken about when you've gone through multiple losses in amongst you had a couple of some losses, you had your healthy pregnancy, you went through another loss, and then you had your daughter. So it's not, yes, women generally can be diagnosed with postpartum depression, postpartum rage, like it is a thing. But to have losses, which also increase your risk of postpartum mental health issues in postpartum, like postpartum depression, you can still get that through losses alone. So it's not to say that you maybe didn't have some element or some form of that happening, but you didn't have a baby at home to trigger you. And a lot of the time with those postpartum mental health issues, it's that trigger. You've got that and you're like, I can't deal with that. I can't deal with my baby. I can't be close to them. I can't. They're the trigger. But it could have compounded and then it led to the anxiety, the really crippling anxiety that you had with your son, on top of all of the grief, on top of the trauma, on top of all of the dismissals, all of the things, all of the hemorrhaging, like everything that didn't go right and you didn't get the support for. and then still adding different layers to it by the time your daughter comes along. Because in your ectopic pregnancy, you mentioned that you had really intense anger at that point. So it could have contributed to the fact that that rage, that anger inside of you still had nowhere to go. It still wasn't able to be supported. So it manifested in a way to postpartum rage, possibly.
Yeah, yeah. I was going to say too, I may have mentioned this earlier, but it definitely felt like the rage was compounded too,
Yeah.
because it wasn't just rage towards my kid. It's this rage toward this kid that I almost also lost. His twin, I lost, and they're identical twins. So every time I see him, I see his brother. Anytime he's in front of a mirror, I see my boys. But so, yeah, it's like I can't speak from the perspective of someone with postpartum rage with no loss, but from postpartum rage with loss, it's like, I'm supposed to be so grateful
Yeah.
for you. You're supposed to be in my world, which makes the you're terrible, you're terrible, you're terrible louder.
Yeah. And you're supposed to be grateful because this is the thing that you wanted so much. And I think
Really.
that's what makes that mental health element so much more nuanced and layered because you should be grateful. You shouldn't be
Hmm.
angry. You should be happy that you got your baby. And
Yep.
that just makes that guilt, the shame, the blame, like everything that we put on top of ourselves run so much deeper because you should be okay. I should be okay. I should be
Yeah.
enjoying these moments and I can't even look at you.
Yeah. I don't even want you in the room with me.
Yeah.
And God forbid I say that out loud.
Yeah, exactly. You say that out loud to the wrong person. And if
Yeah.
someone that doesn't understand your experience and have someone on the other side of you to say, of course that you feel that way, and not admit you to a mental institution and have you in padded cells because you're like, it's not,
Or take my child away from me.
yeah, you're not, it's not that. You needed the support mentally, emotionally, physically, because everything that you went through compounded and led to essentially being diagnosed with postpartum rage. But every one of your experiences through the losses, through having, and even you have a healthy child, but it wasn't one healthy pregnancy. It was an identical twin
Yeah.
pregnancy that didn't go the way that you had planned. So not, it was a conflicting experience for you then too. You probably couldn't allow yourself the space to really make sense of what was happening. Also, again, no one's going to understand why you have these conflicting emotions like consistently throughout the rest of that pregnancy and even after, and then also potentially losing your life. Not only do you have fear of losing your children's lives, but you nearly lost yours.
Yeah. Yeah. Which definitely added to, and like twice too, if the ectopic had gone undiagnosed even longer or whatever. Yeah. There's a lot.
Yeah. And it's like, I just want to say, like, it's of course that you had these feelings, of course that it manifested in the way that it did because you didn't get the support, you didn't get the safety from the doctors, like misdiagnosing you, dismissing you. You didn't get support in a way that you actually needed it through all of that to be able to help you through. And then even after with your son, like you said, it wasn't a normal birth. You do have a healthy child, but then he was this massive trigger for you for quite a period of time. Were you able
Yeah.
to get support with that and him at that time? Were you able to open up to someone and get support then?
Yeah. Let's see. About a year and a couple months after he was born, I finally found a therapist I like vibed with. And there was like a little trial and error there. And I have a very amazing relationship with my husband too. But also like he was battling his own things, which like we rarely talk about like the partners like battles through all of it as well.
Yeah.
So like he had his own grief and his own trauma from the birth because he was told we don't know if she's gonna make it, and he's holding a newborn baby in the middle of nowhere with no friends or family around, going, "What the fuck is happening?"
Mm.
So we did have each other, but it was rocky there for a while too because I always tell people because of COVID, I had to go in the ambulance by myself, and he stayed home with the baby, and he had a midwife and stuff. But I tell people when I went on the ambulance, it was like I started down this path and he went down that path, and it took us a while to get back on the same path again.
Yeah.
But yeah, about a year after Seamus was born, I found a therapist that I still work with today, 5 years later.
Were because usually it's those initial moments after the baby's born, they do the skin to skin contact, they get you to do all of that. Was that something that you were able to do, or literally you were whisked away like straight away and you missed that portion of the birth as well?
I got a sliver of it in the tub. So we did a birthing tub, and then I did skin to skin for a little bit, and then they were like, "Okay, you got to get out. The placenta hasn't come yet. We got to try to get the placenta out." And so then my husband took the baby. We tried to get the placenta out. It eventually came out in like shreds. A lot of it was retained inside of me. And then it was like, okay, let's call 911, things like that. And shortly after I started hemorrhaging, but no, my husband, it's like the situation was terrible, but it's one of the things he's always grateful for is he had some very intimate moments with my son. He did most of the skin to skin. They did eventually let them come out to the hospital, but I was in the ICU for 2 or 3 days. But they allowed them to pop in for feedings. But aside from that, my husband was doing all the skin to skin, doing all the diapers until I was able to be wheeled to like the maternity area. But even then, I was just like scared to hold him.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it was actually really cute once I like moved to the maternity wing or whatever, being able to see my husband just like really rocking and rolling with his roles. And he had a rhythm, and it was really cute and admirable.
Yeah. It's so beautiful, like obviously to have them step in and for you to be
Hmm.
able to witness that.
Yeah.
You said before, having the men deal with the experience too. Like they've got to have that way of processing what they went through, and they've got their own timeline. It's not the same as ours, their own perspective of what happened. They witnessed things that you didn't get to see. And you mentioned that you did the down payment for the house on therapy. So I
Mhm.
think for you both to be able to process that experience or multiple experiences, do you feel like with each of them, they're slowly unfolding? If we can't process the emotions at the time that it's happening, it compounds. We do have to deal with it at some point. Do you feel like you've said you've gone now over 5 years? Do you feel like you're gaining ground in that, in being able to process all of the experiences?
Definitely. Yeah, I do. I also have this entire time I have journaled heavily, which I'm really grateful for. So I always had that as like a processing outlet. I will say, shockingly enough, I'm working on a memoir about my journey to parenthood, and that I feel has been one of the most healing things I've ever done is like taking the journey and turning it into a story. And not just that, but like in writing the chapters and things like that, I am, at least in my head, reliving it. What did I feel like? What did the room look like? another unexpected healing part of that too is before all of this, I was extremely fit. And I was a very yoga every day and mountain biking, running, whatever. And I don't look it anymore, which has been a hard living as a woman in this world. It's hard to not look a certain way, especially if you did once.
Yeah.
And writing out my story for the memoir has taken me by surprise how much I'm like falling in love with my body, not looking at it as something that needs to be compared to a magazine, but as a what it's carried me to, what it's carried me through, and the opportunities it's had to give up and it hasn't. And I do have two beautiful, healthy kids. So that's been like an unexpected treat.
An unexpected little golden nugget in there.
Totally.
But it's beautiful for you to be able to do that. And like you said, when you do go back over your story, then it is reliving those experiences to put it into words, but it also gives you the opportunity then to heal what's still there. And your body will tell you what's still there. Like you'll be able to get
Yeah,
through some parts and be like, yep, sweet, I'm good. And you'll be able, and then you'll come up to some parts and be like, oh, that's still really quite raw. I still need to
totally.
process something here. And one of the best parts of it is that you get to fall in love with you again. And I think through loss, it gives us that opportunity to really strip back everything that we thought we were and rewrite that. And for you to be able to see your body in a completely different way, in a completely different light. And it doesn't have to be a size 6 foot tall. And I'm like, it's
I'm never
so,
gonna be 6 foot tall, but
unless I'm
but
wearing
yes.
stilts. Yeah. But it's just that opportunity to know you at a such deeper level than probably
Mm,
what you would have ever given yourself the space to do. We don't allow ourselves the space to do that generally in a day-to-day world. We get rushed off, we get distracted, we get to-do lists, and being okay with our body is not on that to-do list. And
right.
after everything that you've been through, the disconnect that you can experience going through losses, going through all of that, the identity, we can lose our identity, we can lose trust in our body, we can lose so much. So to be able to fall back in love and go, you know what? You're amazing.
Yeah, killing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
I'm
definitely.
nailing it over here. Yeah. I love
Yeah,
it.
and just like giving past versions of myself grace. Even with the weight gain and stuff, it's like anytime I was pregnant after the third miscarriage, it was like I was terrified to move my body. I was like literally walking on eggshells. Oh, I don't want to walk too quickly or do this, overexert myself or whatever. I don't want to cause a loss.
Yeah.
So just giving that version of myself grace of you did great and we're here and they're here and they're screaming while I'm doing podcasts and it's wonderful.
Yeah, it's just all of those little things that you're like, you know what, I'm so in love with this moment right now, or I'm so frustrated, but I'm okay. And like you said, it is giving yourself grace for the maybe decision you had to make at the time, for a way that you felt at the time, for maybe how you reacted at the time. Like you did what you had to do in that moment with the knowledge that you had. Like you know more now, but that person, that past version of you didn't. And she did what she had to do to get through.
Yeah, definitely. Very proud of her.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that all of everything that you've been through that has come out on top for you. And is there anything else that you'd like to share that we haven't spoken about?
Not that I can think of, just generally, if you're like currently living it, just give yourself grace. There's no timeline and there's no rule book. everyone grieves differently, and it's as long as you're not harming yourself or anyone else, like how you're grieving is perfectly fine.
Yeah. And to not let anyone dismiss or try and downplay where you're at or what you're feeling.
Totally, totally.
If you don't feel comfortable, in certain situations, if people are trying to, you can leave. Even that goes for doctors too.
Yep.
If they don't see you, you can leave. You can
Oh,
choose
fire
someone
them.
else.
Yeah, all day.
Yeah. And just know that's
Yeah,
okay.
trust your gut on that
Yeah.
too. If you, especially in a medical situation, if you're like, I don't feel safe or I don't like how this person makes me feel, find someone else.
Yeah. And yeah, you can. And for so
Hmm.
long, I think so many of us, we don't feel like we can because they're the doctor. But no, you can. And if
Yeah,
that feels, if you shouldn't have to keep putting yourself back into situations where you're just like, I don't want to go, or I'm not getting
right.
seen, or they're not listening to me, or they're dismissing
Hmm.
my questions. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
yep.
you so much, Jayme. I will let you go and tend to your family.
All good.
But I truly appreciate everything that you've shared, even to the depth that you were able to share it, especially with the losses, with your beautiful, healthy children and the experiences that you've had in between. I think from your experience through that timeline, we've been able to shed light on so many different things. So I truly appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate all of this.
Yeah, thank you. I It's women like you that we can start to shape the conversation in a different way and release the stigma and shame, and also, like you've said, how we ended, if something doesn't feel right, to trust your gut, just to have that permission.
Yep, 100%.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Jayme, for being a part of the What I Wish I Knew Beyond Pregnancy Loss podcast, and for sharing your experience with loss and postpartum so openly. I will post all Jayme's links in the show notes. Thank you to all that have listened in. If this episode was valuable to you, I invite you to leave a review on Apple Podcast. I look forward to supporting you on the next episode. Thank you for listening in with me today. I hope you found this episode helpful. If you did, I would absolutely love to hear from you. Take a screenshot of this episode, share it to social media, and tag me at Institute of Healing_PL. I love seeing what is resonating with you right now. If you want to chat further, I invite you to connect with me through Instagram. Head over and follow my Instagram account, send me a DM, and let's open the communication. If you want to know more about how you can be the support for others, head to the show notes and fill out the application form for the Pregnancy Loss Practitioner certification. I want to also note here that what I share within the episodes is not medical advice. If you need further support, please consult your doctor. Thank you again. Much love to you. Be gentle with yourself, and I look forward to supporting you on the next episode.